guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press.
And I'm David Room.
And today we are going to be doing an episode of The Signal where we take a discussion topic, usually an article, and we kind of talk through what we think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I start with indie news. I don't really have anything today. I've been reading, so I haven't been doing too much looking through stuff. So I apologize. If you are an author that I've reviewed and you have something going on, please feel free to contact me so that I can talk to people about it. Also, my upcoming review will be Leslie Shu's Kumasagi, the first book. I am really enjoying that series. But I didn't have time to make a slide about it. So I just wanted to put it on your guys' radar. Hi to Patrick and to John A. Douglas. Thank you guys for coming. Okay, I put the link to the article in the description. It is an article by Ted Gioia. Would that be how you would?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you
a
want
lot
to
of
just
vowels.
quick before we get started? Do you want to bring up the controls for the camera and turn that white point on and off? We're a little washed out. Sorry, guys. We're still figuring out what is going on with our camera. It's like all of a sudden it sort of manually needs to be recalibrated. I don't know why it is that way, but it is.
Now I'm waiting for my computer.
There we go.
Which has been really slow lately.
Okay.
There we go. Can you hear
us
us now?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly why it does that, but it's like the last couple times when we started up, the camera is too bright, like really too bright. And I mean, it still is sort of washing out and everything, but it's like it stays too bright until you turn auto white balance off and back on again.
And then the other day when I was on by myself, it just got darker and darker and darker. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good way, we might want to just turn that off and find the right settings for it on your computer.
Okay. Hi to people who showed up while we were having our technical difficulties. Doug Wise, Jeff Park, Anne. All right, I think I got everybody. Okay, thank you.
Let's get started.
Let's do it. So this article is one that a friend sent me, someone who is not in our indie sphere, right? Someone who actually is more of a music person. So I'm not sure how she came across him or anything like that, but he posted a Substack article titled "The State of the Culture" back in 2023. Apparently, it did very well, so he did it again this year. This one has over 2,500 likes, so that's kind of
on Substack.
On Substack, right? And he appears to be someone in the music industry. I'm not exactly sure about his whole backstory, shall we say. But I was interested in his take on the current state of the culture. I was surprised at how depressing it was, I guess, and how little he talked about independent media. So his one from 2023 is a bit more positive about and mentions indies, at least. But his overall message in that one is we need to work on creating an audience that desires cultural artifacts, art. And then his one from this year seems to be more about that such an audience doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's very doom and gloom. To be honest, I don't know why your friend thought it was so interesting. It's going to be interesting to talk about because we don't usually talk about this kind of thing, but I feel like it's only tangentially related to the kinds of topics that we usually talk about.
Yeah.
So maybe we can make a connection. I think that's what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to make a connection.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very weird article, and I think especially for people like us who are sort of maybe social media literate and understand how social media works, this is not an article for us. This is an article for, it's kind of like a boomer doom and gloom kind of article.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to interact with it like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be should be an interesting article to look at.
And I do not have slides. We'll be just looking at the article directly. Share screen. There we go. The State of the Culture 2024, or a glimpse into post-entertainment society. So his inspiration for this is the State of the Union speech.
And when did this article come out? Just so we can be sure.
The 18th of this year.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the State of the Union was at the beginning of February. I don't even like. I don't watch the
follow
news
it.
anymore, so I don't know when these things are.
He says that's a snooze. So he says, so forget about politics. All the action now is happening in mainstream culture, which is changing at warp speed. That's why we need a state of the culture speech instead. My address last year was quoted and cited and was absolutely true back then, but it's already as obsolete as the ChatGPT-1 help desk at the Bored Ape Yacht Club.
I was not impressed by these cultural references. It's kind of a hello, fellow kids. And I know he's trying to make fun of it, but it's like just use less words.
I liked his 2023 one better, and I didn't feel that it was obsolete. So that's another topic. In fact, 2024 may be the most fast-paced and dangerous time ever for the creative economy. And that will be true no matter what happens in November. So let's plunge in. I want to tell you why entertainment is dead and what's coming to take its place. If the culture was like politics, you would get just two choices. They might look like this: art and entertainment. Many people think these are the only options, both for them and their audience. Either they give the audience what it wants, the entertainer's job, or else they put demands on the public. That's where art begins. That's an interesting.
This guy is such a boomer.
Anne says, did a youth pastor write this?
Yeah.
But they're dead wrong. Maybe it's smarter to view the creative economy like a food chain. If you're an artist or are striving to become one, your reality often feels like this: art being consumed by entertainment. I think this is an interesting approach to this. But
right away, you need to notice that this is his opinion. It's his framing of how he sees these things.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this way. It isn't necessarily this way.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't absolute truth. This is his
perception.
Yeah, and it's a framing, and he's going to be making arguments in this frame. So to pay attention to his framing, because I disagree with it.
Right. And we already disagree about what art is, right?
Well, I don't know. He doesn't elaborate.
Sure.
He doesn't elaborate other than just saying that art somehow requires things from people, which,
yeah.
I mean, I probably agree with, maybe, because not all art is entertainment.
Right.
Right. So that's a distinction that I think is fine, but yeah.
Until recently, the entertainment industry has been on a growth tear. So much so that anything artsy or indie or alternative got squeezed as collateral damage. I'm not sure.
He's talking about big mainstream Hollywood studios and music studios and stuff. So, okay.
But as far as books, which is what I'm familiar with the most, the alternative market began under that. So,
what do you mean under that?
I mean, when the big five were already doing well, right? Like, it didn't start when they started tanking, right?
I don't know what that has to do with what he's talking about here.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting what he's saying. But even this disturbing picture isn't disturbing enough. That's because it misses the single biggest change happening right now. We're witnessing the birth of a post-entertainment culture, and it won't help the arts. In fact, it won't help society at all. Even that big whale is in trouble. Entertainment companies are struggling in ways nobody anticipated just a few years ago. Consider the movie business. Talks about a whole bunch of depressing layoffs and stuff. TV business also hit a wall in 2023. After years of steady growth, the number of scripted series has started shrinking. Music may be in the worst state of them all. And he talks about big musicians. Musicians are actually worth more old than young, dead than alive. Raises the obvious question, how can demand for new entertainment shrink? What can possibly replace it? But something will replace it. It's already starting to happen. Here's a better model of the food chain in the year 2024. And he's added distraction. The fastest growing sector of the economy is distraction, or call it scrolling or swiping or wasting time or whatever you want. But it's not art or entertainment, just ceaseless activity. The key is that each stimulus only lasts a few seconds and must be repeated. It's a huge business and will soon be larger than arts and entertainment combined. Everything is getting turned into TikTok, an aptly named platform for a business based on stimuli that must be repeated after only a few ticks of the clock. TikTok made a fortune with fast-paced scrolling video, and now Facebook, once a place to connect with family and friends, is imitating it. So long, Granny, hello, Reels. Twitter has done the same, and of course, Instagram, YouTube, and everybody else trying to get rich on social media. So, I mean,
it's a long way of saying everybody is going to these clip-based things on social media.
Yep.
Short form, they call it.
And this, his I guess what I'm thinking is that his entire article sort of assumes that consumers are okay with that on every platform, that there are people who are actively using the short form clips on Facebook.
Well, that's part of my beef with him, is that he assumes the worst in everybody. And I don't. So he specifically mentions he kind of calls out Facebook, once a place to connect with family and friends, is imitating it. I mean, the reels on Facebook are just Instagram reels. Right. And I think Facebook is an evil company, but it's not really evil because of its product. It's actually more evil in how it deals with its customers, small businesses who are buying ads and stuff. It's very evil towards. I think we can separate maybe perceived problems with this short form thing, and we could say that that's a problem without assuming that the end goal of all these platforms is to get everybody addicted and make everybody miserable. I don't think we have to do that. That might be true, but I don't think we have to do that. I don't think it's necessary. And this guy he has a chip on his shoulder because he doesn't understand how social media can be used for good.
Yeah.
And he is basically he's latched onto this one thing, this short form thing, and it's going to be the death of everything. And everybody wants short form stuff to take over and kill everything because everybody's evil except him.
Right. Yep. That pretty much sums up how I feel about this as well. Anne says, I mean, it's an interesting concept. I met someone this week who had barely seen any movies and seems to have been raised by Minecraft YouTubers. Made me rethink how much YouTube time I spend. Sure. She says, a shared culture is a shared narrative, and you get a bit of that in online communities, but it works better if everyone can bond over, say, Star Trek first.
Well, yeah, and there's still, the thing is there still are those things, right? He was just bitching about how there's no room for indies anymore because everything's was on a growth tear. And I mean, I know he's saying that, I think he had some stuff like, okay, the numbers of scripted original series are starting to go down. Okay, well, it doesn't mean it's completely dead.
Right.
And everybody is just now only watching TikTok.
Right.
I mean, what he spends a very little amount of time talking about what the content of these short form videos is.
Right. It just assumes that the contents of them is ubiquitous to
Yeah.
like a shot of heroin every time you push a button
Yeah.
or something.
And he also doesn't talk about why, like, what do these companies, how do they make money,
Mhm.
right? Well, they make money by selling ads, and they make money through like super chats and things like that. So I would say like the super chats would be maybe an example of sort of a addictive bad behavior. I'm
Sure.
cool with letting him have that. But I mean, these platforms, they make money by selling ads. They make money by selling ads that are relevant to what people are watching. I mean, people advertise products and things that you use in the real world, not on TikTok.
Mhm.
So it's not like these things are just going to completely destroy the world.
Right.
I mean, I'm not making this argument the best, but
I
you
kind
know,
of understand what you mean.
it doesn't change. Like the system cannot just keep going the way he's describing forever, because it would break down,
Mhm.
right? If all anybody ever did was sit in their room in their virtual reality goggles,
Mhm.
and eat meals in a pill or whatever,
Yeah.
there's not going to be anything to advertise
Mhm.
on these platforms, and they will go away. Right?
And I think maybe what we're trying to say and what Anne was trying to say is that even though these sort of short form videos are good for scrolling, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are the desire for connection. They also have a very short lifespan, right? So if you are talking with your friends and you say, "Oh, did you see that video?" That's a short conversation. Whereas if you have longer content to talk about, right? Like the Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show, everyone's going to have way more to say about a bigger entertainment product. I don't really see that disappearing as a result of there being TikTok videos, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And this guy is just so obsessed with this idea that everything is going to devolve into everybody being addicted to short form content that he can't understand that.
Anne makes another good point. She says people are digging for good stuff right now. So we are at a flashpoint for potential growth if you put in the effort. And I agree. I would say that this article is interesting in looking at things from a particular direction that I'm not used to looking at things in, because I have the interpretation that some of the opposite of growth
Decline.
Thank you, that we're seeing in the mainstream media is a result of poor quality content.
Yeah, like this guy wants it to be because everybody's addicted to TikTok.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's actually stuff on TikTok that's better.
Right.
Like, have you thought of that? Maybe there's stuff in Instagram Reels that's more good and pleasing and inspiring and true and whatever than the latest Disney Plus mediocrity.
Yeah. Like that video that was going around, was it today or yesterday, of people pulling a woman out of a burning car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a shorter video. It's not a huge, long movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the takeaway from that is way more inspiring and uplifting and happy than any grimdark.
Mm-hmm. Or people posting nice videos of their kids, nice interactions between adults and kids, music, like people playing music, short form stuff, reviews, people posting good reviews of art or like actual useful products that are useful for doing real things and getting work done. I mean, all of these things are things that fit in short form content that this guy is just oblivious to because he doesn't understand how social media works.
Right.
And he doesn't understand that people can use that stuff to share good things and get eyes on the good things that they're making instead of the corporate nonsense, right?
Okay, let's keep going.
He set up this battle between art and entertainment and distraction when, you know, it's like there's a lot of TikTok that is distraction, but there's also a way to promote your art in there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't it's just totally not on his radar.
Yeah. Okay. This trend can last forever. It's based on body chemistry, not fashion or aesthetics. So a little chemistry lesson about dopamine.
Yeah.
It makes us feel good. So we want to repeat the stimulus cycle. Looks like this.
I mean, that's one way of thinking about it. But another way of thinking about it is, like, say, take Twitter. I think one of the nice things about Twitter is you can have these very real conversations, and the way the platform works, you know, some of the other new expanded long tweets and stuff aside, is that it makes you get to the point instead of beating around the bush, having to drop some big narrative about how the world is going to hell like this guy. You can just say what you're trying to say in a sentence and then be done. And if it's a good idea, people like it. And if it's a bad idea, they don't. Now, of course, there is a dopamine element to that. I think a lot of the dopamine element for me for Twitter is seeing if interactions happen, seeing if fights happen or whatever. But it's built around actually good communication.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least communication that is intentional and involves a lot of craft. Right?
And one of the wonderful things about the Twitter algorithm is, you will always find people who you disagree with talking about the things that you care about. But it's really good at connecting you with people who share your interests, right?
Yep.
Even if you run into people who you disagree with about those interests, it has found people for you to talk to about them. And you're very likely to find people that you do agree with through those interactions.
I feel like what this guy wants is he wants like the cooking blogs where you find the recipe and it's, 10 paragraphs of when I was a little child, I once got lost in the grocery store, and then blah, 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 before the recipe starts. And short form content is, let's get to the point. Right now, of course, that can be bad. I don't disagree. There's a million ways that can go wrong, but it can also be really good. It can be good to get to the point.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. A couple people rolled in, I feel like. Michael Kane, hi, and Isaac Anderson. Patrick's, let's see, says, I'm old enough to remember when people complained about YouTubers who made 11+ minute videos because the ads caused them to do so. That's why the self-help tech help sucked so much in 2008, 2012. And Jeff Park says, people make YouTube videos that are only double digits of minutes long. The Anarchist Bible Study those very, very long videos. Patrick says, David, I watched a 3-hour roundtable bad-mouthing Chris Stuckman's non-review review. I was doped up.
What? I don't know, Patrick. I don't know what that is. Maybe you can explain.
I think he's just saying that he watched this 3-hour video.
Oh.
And
yeah.
Michael Caine says recipe blogs are just SEO fodder. No one likes those, least of all of which the poor people that write them. Okay. Familiar model for addiction, only now it's being applied to culture in the creative world and billions of people. They're unwitting volunteers in the largest social engineering experiment in human history. I don't know if I agree with that statement. I think pretty much everybody knows that.
What? What was the statement?
They are unwitting volunteers in the largest social engineering experiment in human history.
Yeah, see, again, he's got this attitude that these companies are all just completely pure evil.
Yeah, and the people that they are taking advantage of are
yeah, and the evil thing they want to do is control people or get people addicted or whatever. Like these companies, they either are evil or have evil things that they do. I don't think it helps any of these companies to get a whole bunch of people hopelessly addicted on something to the point where they can't function in society anymore.
Right.
That's not their optimum take, right? It's like if you're a company who makes alcohol, and like say everybody who drank your brand was an alcoholic, that probably wouldn't be the best for you, right? It would probably be better to have most of the people who drink your alcohol not drink it compulsively to the point of dying, right?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me.
These people, they get in this, I'm sorry I'm so upset about this, but I just feel like this is a common thing that you see, and I'm so sick of it. These people, it's like they get in their idea, X, and not X the platform, but like big platform X is big platform is evil. So then they sort of, given that frame, they look at all of their actions and they have to come up with a reason that's evil. And there's just no reason to think that. People do this with Amazon all the time. It's like, the algorithm is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody tries to sell an indie book and it doesn't go their way. Maybe they try Amazon ads, it doesn't go their way, and like, Amazon is evil. It's like, no, they're actually trying to do good by their customers.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that your book isn't getting promoted is because people are more likely to buy and enjoy somebody else's book.
Mm-hmm.
And Amazon knows it. It's frustrating. Same thing with all the algorithm hate,
Yeah.
It's like, if you post on social media, you end up serving the algorithm. It's like, well, yes, you can. The algorithm also does things to try to help people find things that they like, and it actually works a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to work with the algorithm, you don't have to, but then maybe don't complain about things not going their way, and
right, like links being
devalued,
or like everybody was complaining a while ago. It was like a week or so ago,
mm-hmm.
because someone did a long thread about the way that the algorithm worked, and a whole bunch of people posted, well, this is why I don't pay for X, or
mm-hmm.
this is why I hate the algorithm. And it was just all very, very obvious. It was like,
the don't be friends with people, like don't have a bad follower following ratio, and don't be friends with people who do.
Right. Those are things that weed out bots.
Yeah.
And weed out people, like and like people who are using the platform as a ineffective like
just
play for play type of promotion. It's
and that stuff isn't useful. You don't want to see it,
right.
I mean, do you want to follow 5,000 people and then just randomly retweet stuff and then see a feed full of stuff that random people are retweeting? No, you don't. And they know it, which is why they made the algorithm to penalize people for doing that kind of thing. You want to see interesting and controversial discussions. You want to see cool art. You want to see all these things. Guess what? The algorithm promotes that because on some level an attempt is being made to be a good product, and it's not about punishing you for being an indie or punishing. It's about trying to make a good product.
And it's not like this guy's saying, right? Like, and it's not trying to get you addicted, right?
Yeah.
It's trying to actually perform a function for you as the customer.
I think anything that is good, or most things that are good, are or can be addictive.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's why we like everybody has to always say, don't play video games to excess, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, can we just say that it's okay to play video games, right? Like, what do we have to say? I mean, no, we don't like constantly have to say. Maybe people used to. I don't know. Like, it's okay to have a little bit of something, a little bit of sugar, right? But don't eat the entire bag, right? Like, I don't know. It just. So you need to ditch that simple model of art versus entertainment. And even distraction is just a stepping stone toward the real goal nowadays, which is addiction. So here is his updated food chain. And he thinks that addiction is being pursued aggressively by tech platforms that now dominate every aspect of our lives. Every aspect, you guys. I made dinner, I consulted Twitter. The tech platforms aren't like the Medici. Is that how you pronounce that? Medici in Florence.
Or Medici.
Or those other rich patrons of the arts. They don't want to find the next Michelangelo or Mozart. They want to create a world of junkies because they will be the dealers. Addiction is the goal.
That's just your opinion. Who are some of the most successful people on YouTube and Instagram? Artists, musicians, people who are doing cool, worthwhile, artistic things.
Yep. And
people who talk about art and music.
Yeah.
You know, some of the most beloved, biggest YouTubers. Are you kidding? It's like this guy just. It's like he thinks everything is just about the lowest common denominator, and he can't see the good in anything.
Right.
Even some big like really big sort of clickbaity type YouTubers. I used to really like watching PewDiePie.
Yeah.
When he would do videos every day. And his videos were really good. They were genuinely entertaining. Not just as clickbait, but there's a lot of really kind of subtle humor to them, a lot of self-referential jokes. And this kind of narrative that he created of his conflicts with different people, which something that you also see in kind of modern drama YouTube,
right?
Something that I think makes it sort of worthwhile. He would also talk a lot about art and music,
Mm-hmm.
and he would read books and talk about them, and you know, he would talk about important things in life. I mean,
Yeah.
and I believe he's a very genuine person,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a genuine person in his videos. It's like, is that not worth anything?
Mm-hmm.
The guy's just
No one would be more thrilled for the next Michelangelo to appear on their site
yeah.
than
Who who has the biggest deals on like on Spotify?
mm-hmm.
You know, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, podcasters, long form content
Yep.
people. This guy probably thinks that all these modern musicians are just hacks and frauds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some, but I mean, it's just he's a person who doesn't see the good in anything.
Yeah. Yep. Jeff Parks says, neither did the Medici. They just wanted political power.
Yeah.
Patrick says, Joe Rogan and other long-form podcasts destroyed the New York Times bestseller list and allowed authors who wrote books 7 years ago to get another set of windfalls.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Park says that motivation allowed the true greatness to flower under their patronage, and the same is happening on many platforms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Patrick's got another point too, in that even just showing, you know, the fruits of capitalism can elevate people in terrible countries.
Yep. The left hate that it's not reading Shakespeare. Just wait, he's going to get there.
I think something like that happened to Patrick too in the 1980s with American movies in communist countries.
Mm-hmm.
They would all get together and watch American movies in hiding, which wasn't allowed, and they were just amazed at how rich Americans were.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, you know, is partially exaggerated in movies and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But still, it was a truth compared to the lies that their leaders were giving them.
Yeah, it was a far more possible,
Yeah,
and attainable in America than in their own countries.
yeah.
Anne says, yeah, the evil genres of music we got from YouTube, by which I mean more musically complicated covers of pop songs by those who are classically trained. Sure.
All kinds of people who I don't even like are good musicians.
Mm-hmm.
I keep seeing videos of Post Malone. He does live streams on YouTube where he gets together with a bunch of his musician friends and they do these amazing covers. He's doing a bunch of covers of country songs, like 90s country songs now.
Cool.
This is Post Malone. And this is probably some of the most watched content on YouTube right now. This is good. This is good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the opposite of everything that this guy is saying. It's good. It's good culture, right?
Yeah.
It's modern. It's modern people being good musicians and introducing their fans to older genres.
Well, and this goes back to what his 2023 article was like. We need to be creating an audience, right, that is interested in cultural things, music,
Mm-hmm.
art, and books, stuff like that, right? Shakespeare, whatever. Like, this is the kind of thing that does that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's bite-sized instead of long form, what's the harm? It's still doing that. Okay. Everything is designed to lock users into an addictive style. Scrolling and reeling interfaces. Punishing anything that would persuade you to leave the platform by the algorithm. And he says a news story, as if there aren't ways on Twitter, at least, like for news people to get their articles in front of people. But outside links, certainly. It might liberate you from your dependent junkie status, and that can't be allowed. That's not why links are promoted less, right? It's not why. They don't want you to leave the platform, that's true. But it's not so that you will stay addicted, right? Virtual reality headsets. Like,
this guy's just clueless about what that stuff is.
not everybody is putting on these headsets, right?
It's like a small percentage of people that use these things. And the reason that he's talking about this is Apple Vision Pro. And you know what Apple Vision Pro is for? It's for doing work.
Mm-hmm.
It is not really mainly a tool for consuming.
Yeah.
It's a tool for productivity. I think it's kind of silly, and I don't really have any interest in using it myself, but it is not for scrolling TikTok. It is for productive work.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Jeff Park says, I don't like Tate McRae's music, but she did create with Tate streams. That was basically a university class, I understand. Hi to Fiona Wolf. Anne says, I have always found that who introduces me to more obscure classics is those classics being the in-joke in other forms of entertainment. If Mark Stein is always quoting Wodehouse, I want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick says, I, for one, miss having only 3 sources of the same banal and false takes of the news. I hate knowing about the Russian invasion on the ground 2 seconds after it happened, then waited 2 hours for CNN.
And Patrick, that doesn't work if the way the platform works is you make an hour-long video.
Right.
Right. That works because it's short form.
Mm-hmm. Anne says, I can't even count the number of poems or books I have heard of only by them being referenced in other things. Yeah. Jeff says, I don't link to anything else in my emails. Not because Gmail punishes it or something, but because I want them to read my email, not someone else's article.
Mm-hmm.
People are bad at reading emails. You've got to keep them focused.
Yeah, and just going back to the whole Twitter link thing, I mean, think about using Twitter on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like we promote our YouTube stuff on Twitter because that's where we know people will see it, but we're trying to build our YouTube audiences separately too, so people can find out about it from there. And you don't see us moaning when YouTube links get suppressed or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's I don't even put the link in the first tweet, and it still doesn't get a lot of interaction because most of the people who are on Twitter are on there because they don't have a whole lot of time and they're just browsing real quick, or because they're invested in scrolling, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to go watch a video. So they're not interested right at that moment.
People and there are a lot of people, and I'm going to just pick on indie authors who are entitled. They come like, okay, I'm going to build a social media following to sell my book. And then they're like, I'm important author on Twitter. I should be able to drop links that people go and buy. No, you don't get to have that. That's a privilege that you get when enough people like your stuff. You're not entitled to just be able to post links to take people off platform, and people aren't going to click your links unless you've given them a good reason to think that they get something of value from clicking those links.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the platform. It's the platform is a tool that you are either unwilling or unable to figure out how to use.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a free promotion platform. It's if I work at doing good things, I can probably find an audience
And being
for
an
them.
interesting
And
person.
being an interesting person, being a good interesting person, I can find an audience for that platform,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
I-
about connecting people, not just sort of getting free
Yeah.
promotion.
And I appreciate every single one of you who followed my link on that I posted on Twitter over here to watch us. Doug Wise says, my most charitable take is that he could be assuming the connection between short ephemeral media and longevity or lasting influence, or rather lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick says, my show, I do the full video, but cut up my video into 2 to 6 minute clips, and those are the ones I have the atheists fight with.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from working for someone who grew to 500K on doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I only knew about this stream because of direct marketing on Twitter, in that I saw Katie DM it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to Doug Wise's point about assuming a connection between ephemeral media and lasting influence, there's all kinds of reasons that that's not necessarily true. If some random cat video, maybe, but even on the darker side of social media, you know, you're building a brand. You know, if you're a person, you're posting a lot of little videos of yourself. The little videos aren't the thing; it's you.
Right.
You know, or you know, to draw an analogy back to maybe our efforts. You know, I have a YouTube channel where I post little snippets of my game project, and I've been doing live streams where I talk about my project. Those individually are just kind of little. They're very ephemeral. They're like journal entries or little screenshots, but it's about a bigger project.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger project is not ephemeral. The bigger project, in my opinion, is very worthwhile. And those little things are, and you know, little videos and live streams and things that this guy probably thinks are terrible are me trying to communicate and explain this work, this big creative work that I'm doing in progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his the way he's communicating about it makes it sound like his concept of these short form videos are sort of like these isolated cat videos or something, where it doesn't really matter who's posting them, but it does, right? That because content isn't just individual floating bits, right? There's structure and
maybe there are people who are just continuously just consuming a whole bunch of unrelated stuff.
Maybe,
but it doesn't have to be that way, right? That's
Right.
obviously not how we consume things.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be how our children consume things.
Yeah. Tech CEOs know this is harmful, but they do it anyways. And then he talks about Mark Zuckerberg, who he doesn't care, right? Shocker, right? And then he extrapolates to saying that that's everybody, right? All the CEOs. The more their tech gets used, the more the worse all this psychic metrics get. But still, they push aggressively forward. They don't want to lose market share to the other dopamine cartel members, and with a special focus on children. I don't know that that's substantiated. I think that we've seen a lot of push to protect kids on social media lately, particularly YouTube. A couple years ago with the giant overhaul.
Yep. If again, I'm not saying that they're doing a perfect job, but if their goal was to just be completely evil, they would not bother with a lot of the things that they do.
Yeah. And not to be that person, but children need to be protected by their parents. Right? Like, part of my job as a parent is to make sure my daughter and son do not end up addicted to their phones, right? Like, to anything, to sugar, to TV, to whatever, right? Anything. Because like David said earlier, there is a real sense in which anything that is good and fun to do can become addictive. So helping children to learn to manage that is part of the parent's job, not really a company's. And then he talks about simulator sickness, virtual reality headsets. It's not as big of an issue as he is making it out to be, in my opinion. Here we go. Even the dumbest entertainment looks like Shakespeare compared to dopamine culture. You don't need Hamlet. A photo of a hamburger will suffice, or a video of somebody twerking, or a pet looking goofy. So who was it? Was it Jeff or Patrick earlier who mentioned Shakespeare? I'm going to find it. Maybe I'm not going to find it. You guys have been talking so much. Oh, well. Anne says, it's like he's talking about kids these days, but he doesn't have a deep enough knowledge of it to parse out the good and the bad. Yes, I would agree. This is the new culture. Its most striking feature is the absence of culture, or even mindless entertainment. Both get replaced by compulsive activity. And here's his little chart. Slow traditional culture, fast modern culture, and dopamine culture. There's no books on here at all. That's really funny to me. Maybe that's because books are the hardest to hack. Play a sport, watch a sport, gamble on a sport. As if people didn't watch sports.
Or gamble on sports.
Or gamble on sports. Back in the Roman Colosseum. Journalism, newspaper.
And of course, the idea that some of these things that he's criticizing have been around for a long time, that doesn't mean that they're fine.
Right.
Because and something that I think you can draw an analogy to a lot of this stuff with is news. I remember watching the news as a kid. Just, it's pointless, but it's the same kind of thing, sort of short form, terrible stories that make you feel things, So just because we're not arguing that just because something has been around makes it okay.
Right.
But, here he's saying the rise of dopamine culture, and he's trying to make this sort of a unique thing.
Well, this is supposed to be.
Certainly TikTok is. We're not arguing in short form videos. It's new.
Right.
I agree, but that's not the only thing.
Right. And this is not like brand new to 2024.
Short texts. Do you remember when texting was a giant fad when you still paid per text for phone plans like 15 or 20 years ago?
Yeah.
This isn't the rise of it. This is something that we've been living in for a generation now.
Yeah. Relationships. This is courtship, marriage, sexual freedom, swipe on an app. this one probably captures another point that I wanted to make the best, where it just really, he really glosses over anyone's desire for the opposite, right? Because these companies are designed, in his view, to prey on people and get them addicted. Those individuals who are being preyed upon are helpless victims and are not able to say, well, actually, I know my mental health and I'm going to stay off Twitter today, right? Or like this, someone who says, actually, I have traditional values when it comes to sex and marriage, and I'm not going to be participating in this dopamine culture column in that particular area, right? He just assumes that everyone who participates on the internet, right, is buying into all of the elements here on the far right, on the gambling. I'm not gambling on sports. I'm also not watching sports or playing sports, but that I'm also not swiping on apps, right? So, and yeah, I do short texts, but I also do really long emails. Anybody who's ever emailed me knows that. And I really enjoy handwritten letters. I don't write super long handwritten letters, but I try to do Christmas cards at least, right? So he just completely glosses over, ignores an individual's personal values and how they might enact those proactively in this culture, right? What do we got here? There. Okay. John Hidalgo says no books. Yeah, exactly. Where are our books? He says he has to drive. Patrick says it's no longer a status symbol to pretend to read the bestsellers. See Joe Rogan killing the New York Times bestseller comment. And Jeff says, you people who just read, watch, listen to the news are so stuck in dopamine culture. Anne says, floozies are a new invention. I knew it. Jeff Park says, famously, the newest profession is wait. Mm-hmm. Don't be surprised when huge corporations stop pretending otherwise, hence entertainment businesses that suddenly embrace gambling or other equally addictive offerings. This could be that we are moving away from a culture that had a different set of values. Mm-hmm. Possibly that could be related. And yeah, everything is gamified. Anything can be scrollable. You can simulate any boat you row. I agree, but I don't think that it's going to cause everything to fall apart. Right? I think in some ways it's, like we've been saying, a good thing. Communication is clearer, short.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you just want to have horrible entertainment, there's a way in which the lack of pretense is good.
Yeah.
Right. If you really just want to gamble or look at pornography or whatever, I mean, how about you go and do that over there instead of us having to put softcore pornography into our TV or movies or whatever to get people to do it. Or, I feel like we reached
Yeah.
maybe peak microtransactions with games, you know, like how about let's be done with that. If you want to gamble, go and gamble and keep that out of, let's make that a separate thing from people who want to actually play good video games, you know. Not that those things are good, but you know, if that's really what you want, go over there and do it. That's kind of how I feel about AI art. Is you get all these people who are like, oh yeah, it's gonna be so amazing, you know. In a year or 2 or 5 years, we're gonna be able to just you're gonna basically be able to put on your VR headset and you're gonna be able to just create all, you know, you're gonna be able to tell it what you want and you're gonna see exactly what you want and have it create all this stuff on the fly. And it's like, okay, you know what? If that's what you want, you go and do that. And I'm not going to bother trying to sell my stuff to you. You're not my customer. I don't have anything in common with you, right? I like art that's created by people. I like learning about the process. I like learning about the themes. I like learning about the intention. I am interested in making my own art. I'm not interested in a machine that just caters to my whims and generates totally throwaway stuff. I'm interested in people and I'm interested in the cultural context of things and their inspirations. I'm not interested in a machine doing everything for me. But if you are, fine. Make yourself known now and I'll quit interacting with you, right? I have nothing in common with you. You can go and do that. Good. Go. Do it and talk about it so I know not to talk to you about it. It's not pleasant, but these people are, you know, they're wasting they were wasting space in the seats of the cultural movie theater for the last X number of years. Here people are trying to make art with themes and you know, that means something, and these people are just sitting there and they would prefer just to have a stupid machine cater to their whim. Good riddance, get out.
Or are waiting for the sex scene. Or are
why are we pandering to these people? Why are we this is a very I'm sorry, this is a very crass and very rude and dismissive way of talking, but I think there's some truth to it. Right? Yeah, you see this complaint, oh, you know, like you know, Disney, like I'm thinking about Disney Star Wars. Oh, it's kind of lowest common denominator. You know what? A lot of those people who are drinking that slop up would rather just be in a AI VR generated terrible world. They can leave and we don't have to, you know, that's not it. And then when the people who still make movies don't have to include them in their market research as part of their audience because they're not going to be anymore.
Right.
Good.
Yeah. Patrick says, David, he didn't mention your favorite. Are you playing a video game instead of working 88 hours a day?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, the fact that video games aren't even on here are probably means, you know, says something. If this guy made this image, probably just says something. He probably just believes every aspect of video games is bad.
Sure.
So there isn't even a progression. It's just everything's on there. So
he couldn't think of the perfect progression for books, and he thinks that video games are the worst part.
And I'll agree with his idea of there being a progression for video games. There obviously is. He's presenting this as like it's this thing that's happening all across the board at the same time, and it's the worst it's ever been anywhere. And I just don't think that's true. I think we even see it turning around. Yeah. In some of these things. Well, like I mentioned with video games, I think we are sort of at peak microtransactions. I think people are. Oh, here's a good example for music. Vinyl records. Yeah. You know, look, he's got albums, tracks, TikToks. Okay, well, you know what? It forks. albums, tracks. Some people are going for TikToks. Some people are going for vinyl records. Why do you think people like vinyl records? It's because they like the idea of sitting down, putting on a whole album, listening to it, feeling something physical, taking their time, thinking about things.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes young people too. So
yeah.
Easy counterexample to one of his examples here.
Mm-hmm. Kind of an interesting trend that I've been seeing in the indie book sphere is the move towards shorter books, novellas, or not bricks, right? You still get, the big fantasy books, because fantasy readers still really like those. But there's a wide range in between there, right? And it's been leaning towards the shorter end for novels. And I've read quite a few novellas, particularly in the past year. I would say that is a fun exploratory medium, right? That is being utilized in a new way, part of it is because attention spans are shorter. Part of it is because people have less time. But it's not bad just because it's shorter. Just because it's not like indie authors are trying to get people addicted by having shorter content, right? I'm sure many indie authors would love to know how to do that, but it's not. Like, that's not the goal. I don't. And in the same way, shorter content, shorter, more easily consumed content does not necessarily mean lower quality.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen short content fail too,
Mm-hmm.
like that Kindle Vella.
Yeah.
Does anybody really talk about that anymore?
I haven't seen anything on that.
Is it still going, or did it shut down? I think it's still going.
I think it is, but I don't know anybody who uses Kindle Vella. Like the Kindle Unlimited still, but I haven't heard anything. I would be interested to hear from anybody who has used it more recently. Anne says video games is a huge market share for him to miss.
Yeah.
Patrick says, I bought my favorite in an SE vinyl, Songs in the Key of X-Files soundtrack. Heard about it from the algorithm. It's alien green. Nice.
Yeah. Look at that. The algorithm suggesting physical product that you have to slow down and think about and focus on and experience with your senses in the real world to enjoy. If Patrick only got entertainment from whatever platform he was on, then that ad would not work.
Yep.
And the person selling it wouldn't be giving money, or the person buying the ad would be giving money to the platform, and the platform wouldn't be getting money.
And
crying out loud.
If everyone only stayed on the platform, right? Everyone was super addicted and never did anything outside, the memes would dry up, right? Like, there wouldn't be content. People talk about this experience that they have with this physical product. Patrick is able to interact with that. Go get this vinyl album, experience it, and then come back with fresh content for the platform, right? Like, that's by design.
Yeah, you think people just magically make this content without being somewhat interesting people in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm even just talking about inane content. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
still involves all of this stuff. Anything that people want to enjoy requires work, and it requires creating something that's valuable somehow,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the exception of, you know, pornography and things like that. But even that takes work.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come from the void. The closest thing to things coming from the void is AI art.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're to the point where we're seeing AI art really taking over and replacing human created, even terrible short form content.
Yeah.
So like just think about that. Think about that for a second. It doesn't come from nowhere. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes having some skill or experience or or being able to do something or put time into something to make this to make this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing he talks about is how when you're addicted, it stops being fun after a while. So then he says, like, okay, let's give it a name, something like TikTok depression or Silicon Valley zombification or whatever. Key fact is that users can feel it even if they don't have a label or a diagnosis. They feel it even if the technocrats refuse to tell them about it. Just listen to the words people use to describe their toxic online interactions: doom scrolling, trolling, doxing, gaslighting, etc. In the year 2024, this is what we do for fun. This is what we've been doing for fun for a while now. Just throw that out there. But it doesn't bring happiness, he says. And then he talks about the World Happiness Report as if there are no other factors other than social media
Let's
that would impact that. I want to let's jump
skip
down.
through
This is like
some of the psychologizing.
dry. Yeah.
Okay, you were kind of skipping. Sorry.
Yes, I was.
I was seeing all this stuff. I'm like, we don't need to.
This shocking interaction where a college age girl, cream of the crop, you guys, says, "Why would I do that?" when it's suggested that she walks to class without listening to something.
Listening to long form content.
Right. You don't listen to short form.
Right. Listening to podcasts and playlists. So listening to music.
Yeah.
Listening to long form stuff where presumably interesting people are talking about something interesting and an interesting enough way that you find it to be worth listening to.
And yeah, if you are depressed or whatever, then maybe you need to unplug. That's not an invalid suggestion. But it's not everybody who uses the internet is depressed.
Yeah.
Okay. Not long ago, I'd have dismissed anecdotes like this. I couldn't really imagine anyone addicted to Instagram or TikTok or some other phone app.
It's like all this stuff is just a sudden revelation for him that he hasn't thought through.
But I don't need to imagine anything now. I see those sad-eyed junkies hooked to their devices wherever I go. And even their facial expressions convey that haggard, strung-out look.
What are you talking about?
Resting bitch face is what he's talking about.
Where are you going where you're seeing sad people on their phone looking sad and worn out all the time?
They're waiting. They're waiting for stuff. That's why they've got their phone out.
Yeah.
Like it's not. This is the real state of play in our culture in 2024. And it's a bigger issue than just struggling artists or floundering media companies. The dopamine cartel is now aggravating our worst social media problems in education and workplaces and in private life. Unsubstantiated. He doesn't explain what he means by that at all. But you will hardly hear about this because too many people are making far too much money from the dopamine culture. Just telling the truth about the dopamine cartel would be a major step forward for the culture in 2024. Also, do yourself a favor, unplug yourself from time to time and start noticing the trees or your goofy pets. They actually look better in real life than in the headset. And that's the end of the article. Thank you guys for sticking it out with us.
Yeah, sorry I got so mad at this article. I just feel like it really is it's kind of the apotheosis of somebody who just, fingers in their ears, eyes squeezed shut, just refuses to see the good aspects of things, and just sees the worst in everybody, believes the worst intentions for these corporations, maybe just also doesn't even understand how technology works. Some people are that way. They just think apps somehow run on people's phones, and they don't, all of these apps require millions and millions of dollars worth of infrastructure to run. Where does the money for that come from? Right? Why would somebody pay millions of dollars to make this app possible? Well, because it's worth more than that. Why? Because people pay money so they can advertise on it. Why do they do that? Because the ads work. When you get a bunch of people's data and a bunch of people are interacting and expressing interest about things, you can very finely tune ads, relevant ads to people. And that's worth something, because when your ads are really relevant, you can find the right people for your product and the right people will buy it. That's a good thing. The fact that that is something that is possible to do is a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. It's a good thing for consumers. It's a good thing for people who are trying to find an audience for their things. And it's a good thing for the people who are using the platform and running the platform, because it's creating a way that people can communicate with each other. Obviously, there's a million ways that this goes wrong, but it doesn't change the fact that there are lots of good things that come out of it, and they don't come from nowhere. They don't come from people just trying to get rich. It's irritating.
Let's see. Patrick says, are we sure he's not just a Luddite?
Yeah.
Anne says, not to be that guy, but has anyone else seen the JonTron defending against edged weapons video? Dopamine culture reminds me of knife culture. Sorry, carry on. I have seen that. It was a long time ago.
It's been a long time since I
gotta
watched
revisit that.
JonTron.
Anne says, as a Luddite, Patrick, I'm offended. Patrick says, Red Letter Media made me find that video. I never laughed so hard at surviving edged weapons. Real quick, Jeff Park sent me, let me make sure I still have it pulled up. Yep. A lovely meme. Entertainment companies are struggling in ways nobody anticipated just a few years ago. And then entertainment companies are struggling in ways nobody anticipated just a few years ago. And then just real quick, I'll show you guys. This is what he said last year. What we really need is a robust indie environment in which many arts and cultural businesses flourish and present their diverse offerings. Let 1,000 flowers blossom. And that is something that we agree with. We would really like to see lots of people doing their own thing, right? Not necessarily. I don't need giant corporations to succeed to feel good about the state of the culture, shall we say. And this is actually happening without a lot of fanfare. But then, like, even in this one, he goes on to like a tangent talking about Mr. Beast. and startups. So yeah, okay.
What a silly guy.
It's just kind of goofy. Whoops. There we go. Jeff says, I can listen to content. That would take me about 6 hours to read, pretty much every day. It's great for me that podcasts and audiobooks exist. Yeah. If you had to do a short form state of the culture address, what would you say?
I don't know. I think what I would say is I'm gonna sort of chicken out of it and kind of say what I was saying to you earlier, where I don't really care what the state of the culture is, because it doesn't matter. We have the internet. Even these big social media platforms are very decentralized in that they allow even people with very small followings to get their stuff in front of followers. It doesn't really matter what the culture is doing, because anybody who's interested in thing X can find it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what Netflix is doing. If I don't like it, I don't have to watch it. Doesn't matter what Disney is doing. They don't decide what I'm going to watch or what I'm going to do. I can directly find the things that I'm interested in. I can discover new things that are adjacent to the things that I'm interested in. We're talking about entertainment, which I think seems to be the focus of both of these things. Entertainment, and maybe a little bit broader than entertainment, art. The internet lets me and lets anybody find the things that they want to participate in. It doesn't have to be, there doesn't have to be some cultural institution that is making that happen or preventing it. So it doesn't matter. That's what I say.
Very nice. Very nice.
Like the culture doesn't matter. So I don't know. Maybe a more positive way to say that is, well, the culture now is a culture where we can all find these very idiosyncratic groups. So there doesn't have to be a simple way to describe. There doesn't have to be a simple way to describe how our culture does entertainment, because it's basically there are a lot of groups that sort of are doing things their own way. You could try to cluster things into finer and finer grained groups, but you don't have to talk about some kind of overarching, or you don't have to find some big theme in it.
Yeah. Like, what I'm doing with my website is writing reviews of the stuff that I enjoy. And not everyone is going to overlap with me perfectly. But because of the internet, I can find new books to read, and I can share those with other people. And that's awesome. Patrick says, David Room, let it die. I've found better culture, nerd. I've found better culture, nerd. Hit the bell, smash the like button. John is safe at work. Glad you made it. Glad our rage did not drive you off the road. Patrick, when Jeff was talking about listening to content faster than he could read, says, I've improved to 3x speed for a reason. Look, life skills. Okay, I think we've said what we wanted to say about this. Thank you guys for listening and for participating in the chat. It's always fun to hear your guys' comments and share with you guys the topic of the day. And yes, you can like this video. And you can go to periapsispress.com to find good books if you are looking for entertainment in the traditional, so traditional sense that it didn't even appear on the chart. And yeah, we'd love to see you guys commenting on YouTube videos or talking with us on Twitter. We are both people who enjoy connecting with people on social media, and we think that it's useful and not necessarily all doom and gloom. I think that's all I need to say. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you again for coming.